Well, good morning, everyone. I thank Glenn Howard and Jamestown for inviting me the second time in 6 years. Last time I came here, I had no gray hair. Now it's 50% gray. I came to speak from here because I have learned that if your audience shows signs of tiredness, stop speaking. That's going to be my clock. So I will see everybody from here. The topic of my presentation, as it has been chosen by the Jamestown Foundation, is Return of the Taliban. I hope that's going to be a fiction, not a reality, and you are not preparing me psychologically for their return. I want to briefly tell you where are we today with the Taliban and the fight against the Taliban, and what is the solution? Is there a way out? And is this already longest war going to be longer? And why the Taliban have fallen off your radar screens and there's not much talk about them. In the 80s, I don't recall exactly who that commentator was when he was asked. He was an American working for National Security Council. He was asked to explain the Afghan jihad. He said, "It's our gold and their blood, and we are winning." I was thinking how to simplify the situation today against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and according to General Nicholson, there are 9 terrorist groups operating in Afghanistan, using Afghanistan as a base today that we are fighting. Today it is like your metal and money, largely, and our blood and bones, fighting against a common enemy for a common objective. The Taliban, I really wonder why the Taliban are differentiated from ISIS, from Daesh. Some may say they are rural boys of Afghanistan and they are entrenched there. The ISIS fighters have not come from Mars either. They are boys of Iraq and Syria, largely. So when we dismiss any accommodation of the ISIS, which we should, because they are an evil group, we should be equally dismissive of the accommodation of the Taliban. Both groups believe in suicide bombing and killing of the Western civilians for their objectives, to inflict as much pain as they can on you. The TOR of the leaders of both groups are surprisingly similar, over 90%. The job description of the Khalifa and the job description of the Amir of the Taliban are the same. The ISIS tried or partially destroyed Palmyra. The Taliban blew up Buddhas of Bamiyan. There is the animosity towards pre-Islamic heritage is the same on both groups. Then there is the concept of God. The concept of God in the Taliban and in ISIS are the same. Their view of God is that God belongs to them and it's a God of minority, it's God of Taliban and God of ISIS against everyone else. Their description and adjective of God is anger, is distraction, is annihilation of whoever who is outside the confinement of the Taliban. It's exactly the same with ISIS. So when you look at it from a religious discourse, I entirely echo what Bruce Rydell said about bad governance, poor governance, no governance as reasons, some of the reasons for rise of these groups. But these are not entirely the reasons why they have managed to occupy space and have existence in the world. So at various levels, both ideologically, strategically, and operationally, we are in fight against the Taliban. We are not in fight against the Taliban as militiamen of the United States. Remember, we have been fighting the Taliban long before 9/11. And we have been telling the United States, even those days, that this group is going to bring pain and inflict destruction on the either against your interest in the wider region, in our region, or mainland United States. Well, there is a quote from Rumi which says, "God is all about silence; everything else is interpretation." With the speech of Bruce Rydell, I'm outwarded. I think he said everything that was needed to be said. What I say is interpretation of part of his big message, and I focus on the case of Afghanistan. I like his book, The Deadly Embrace. As I was thinking, how simple it will be for me to explain what is the problem of us with Pakistanis and why Pakistan Army and why they are not stopping the support for the Taliban. Very coincidentally, nothing planned, I opened my YouTube and listened to an Elvis Presley song, and that explains Pakistan Army very best. He says, "You look like an angel, walk like an angel, talk like an angel, but you are evil in disguise." I hope I quote him well. That's Pakistan Army. And when they talk to Washington, that's how they present themselves. But they are evil in disguise. And the problem is, they are evil in disguise. So what it will take all of us to crush that disguise and bring their real face. So instead of talking to this disguised evil, we talk to the evil directly. I don't have any policy suggestions to Washington, because I have read some of the tweets, some of the comments, some of the op-eds. People who are going to take charge, they know who they are talking to, and they know the issues of South Asia, and they know the issues of my region. The upcoming National Security Advisor, General Mike Flynn, served in my country. He understands what is in stake, and he understands who are the masterminds for the murder and killing of thousands of American soldiers in my country. So I don't think the disguise of the evil is as thick as it was in 80s or in 90s or in 2001, 2, 3, 4. It's now to a large extent revealed. Now, there's another thing bothers me a lot when I speak about the situation of my country, especially in international forums such as this. Afghanistan's case is presented as if we are a bunch of tribes not agreeing on system of governance, on distribution of power, on definition of our identity, on the relationship of ourselves with the outside world. And sometimes it even goes lower, and we are seen as genetically in fight with each other. That's not the case. Last night over dinner table, I was sitting next to Madame Tiffany, if I'm not wrong. She visited my country in 74. That time I was 2 years old. So, and she told me some wonderful stories about the country she visited. And we have the board member of Jamestown Foundation, member who visited Afghanistan in 71, sir, if I'm not mistaken. And he has spent 6 weeks going around in his vehicle, even on horse, by foot, by vehicle. He said he went even to Wakhan corridor, took pictures, came back to Kabul. Afghanistan is a country, it's a very solid country, and it was not created as post-World War I order. We were a country before that, even before that. What happened that we are in this trouble today? It brings me to another Rumi quote. He says, "I am a fish washed ashore. I have no desire but longing for sanctuary in the water." The wave that washed us ashore as a state was not triggered by our ethnic or tribal differences. A superpower invaded Afghanistan, and they brought the system of the governance, the cohesion, the unity down, and they fragmented it. That wound brought us closer to the United States, and we fought against an enemy which was not only our enemy and your enemy. We suffered massively until the Soviets were defeated and United States abandoned us. That abandonment from 92 to 2001 gave birth to Al-Qaeda. And in 2002, when we restarted engaging with the United States, I remember clearly, as I was one of the negotiators, time and again, the negotiators from the US, be it very distinguished, brilliant, hardworking officers from CIA or military or diplomats, telling us that this will not be repeated. Abandonment of Afghanistan will not be repeated. We are paying a cost. The cost we have paid is 9/11, and it is huge. It is thousands of times higher than the cost if we hadn't remained engaged with Afghanistan. So if we remain true to those words, disengagement with Afghanistan is not going to be an option, and therefore I'm going to concentrate on 3 potential options we have ahead of us for stabilizing my country. One is the status quo, what it means. The second is defeat of the Taliban or pushing them into irrelevance. And the third is accommodation. What does it mean if we accommodate them? A status quo is neither acceptable for you nor acceptable for us. Although the United States today is only providing drones, advisors, special forces, and money and training for us, they are not doing the operations. They are not out to chase the Taliban or remnants of the Al-Qaeda in our villages. That's all done by an army you have created, and it is partnering with you. That's why I said the enemy remains our common enemy, but the role to simplify it is it's your metal, your money, and our blood and bones. This year, in 2016, and I hope of 250 families, we have 52 young men serving in the army. This year, 9 of them were killed. Despite the fact that I had to go to the village 9 times to attend funerals, no one asked whether this was a illegitimate war. They all say this is legitimate. It brings me why people see this as legitimate. Because again, it goes back to the concept and definition of God by us and by the Taliban. The Taliban believe, exactly like ISIS, that they have a communication with God and God commands them to kill every non-Taliban or push them into irrelevance. We stand for pluralism. A democratic society will be too rosy to say at this point, but we do stand for pluralism. We do stand for a society in which there is tolerance. They don't stand for a society in which there will be tolerance. Afghanistan has massively changed. It has now a bigger informed population, it has communication, it has schools, it has active women. Can you imagine, because of your assistance that has empowered us? Few days back, a cleric spoke against women and he was fired 4 days later from his job. Something unimaginable 20 years ago. 15 years ago, people would only believe that the cleric is right. The women are not equal citizens of any Muslim society. That has changed. The Western intervention not necessarily has brought Western values to Afghanistan. It has opened our eyes. It has washed away the cloud from our eyes and we see the world clearly. And that would have not been possible without your assistance. But remember, every leader of significance that you have killed to kill the Taliban or Al-Qaeda, you have not killed them in Afghanistan. You have killed them in Pakistan. Bin Laden was killed in Pakistan. Al-Zawahiri is in Pakistan. And Mansour was killed in Pakistan. 2 Haqqanis were killed in Pakistan. And Haqqanis are based in Pakistan. Why would it be a puzzle for the upcoming Secretary of Defense to think even for a second, does he need to certify Pakistan as a partner? No, he doesn't. It is so obvious that they are deceptive and they are lying, and you don't need to certify them as a partner. They are harboring Haqqanis. Now, option 2, defeat of the Taliban. Some may say, it has already been 15 years, didn't work, why we should try it again? Well, to be very honest, the United States intervention has helped us a lot, but the military option was not exhausted. It was not tried fully. United States got occupied with Iraq. Secondly, they trusted Pakistanis. They thought if we push from Afghan side, they will push from Islamabad side and the bad guys will be sandwiched and killed. They were not done. It didn't happen like that. Then there was another mistake. They said, we fight the Taliban until 2014. Regardless of the realities on the ground, we will withdraw. So the fight was, the Taliban were literally told, you can wait us out. They were given a weapon called patience. So they waited us out. Now the accommodation. Will the policy of accommodation work? We have a saying in our language which says, if you can untie a knot with your hand, don't try your teeth. Right? If we can solve this problem through political dialogue, we shouldn't necessarily every time take our pistol out from our side and do shoot. But the thing is, the Taliban don't need to enter into negotiations. They are not under pressure. They are in Karachi, they are in Quetta, they are in Islamabad. Why should they see the need to speak or to negotiate? The Taliban we kill on daily basis. They are the expendable part of the Taliban. And the drone war, which successfully and brilliantly killed Mullah Mansour, should be expanded and extended to Pakistan. When it happened, I said, this drone will go to heaven. And we should keep it, we should keep this drone in our museum. And it is a heavenly drone because it killed a mass murderer. So I want to conclude my presentation by saying Afghanistan is not a lost cause. 1, 2, it is affordable to be engaged there. 3, in Afghanistan, you have the most trusted partner in that region. Your other partners may be strong, they may have more capabilities, but they are costly to maintain and they are not trusted. We are the most trusted ally of the United States in that region. And my hope is that the upcoming administration will look into all the problems and shortcomings of the past 15 years and show more trust and confidence both in the Afghan government and in the Afghan people, and we will win this war. And we will stand against these forces of darkness. Don't be mistaken. The guys we are fighting, they are not a bunch of rural guys who are disgruntled, who are disenfranchised, or they are angry because of this or that. You have to look them from inside, not from outside. From outside, you will get a very naive perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Last time Amrullah was here, he was profiled by 60 Minutes, and that led to Karzai protesting his getting a visa to the U.S., which we have overturned. So I thank you very much, Amrullah, for what you said.